All right, I think we're cooking with gas. There we go. Hi, everyone. My name is George. I'm here from Consensus Diligence to talk to you guys a little bit about diagrams in smart contracts and smart contract systems. So, of course, the natural why, right? What's the problem? Why are we doing this? Naturally, here we, as security people, we really understand the usefulness of a good diagram. We've all, I'm sure, made many diagrams for our audits and our reports. But unfortunately, nowadays, it's not such a good, they're not in such a good state in our industry. Oftentimes, you get some pretty good, maybe mediocre, maybe a little bit better diagrams made by project teams within their documentation. But once you get into kind of like more third-party assessment, audit assessment, integrated team assessment, you get something kind of like this, which is not, of course, a real diagram. It's something more of a parody of a few diagrams I've seen out there in some audit reports, which is where the engineer got really caught up in the technical details in the process. And I'm sure it was useful for the engineer to create the diagram as he was or she was creating it. But for a reader, for somebody who's reading the report, this is just too confusing, too much information, and you would just be confused and clueless. And in fact, there on the right side is actually one of the diagrams I made very, very recently, and that's where I knew I had to do something about this problem, because I was trying to convey that a single contract is very important in the system, and then in the end it just ended up being like spaghetti of arrows, which is not so good. To fix this, I went ahead and asked a bunch of developers and auditors that I know in this space, what do they do, how do they address diagrams in their reports, in their assessments. And I also looked into what do they do in the greater software industry, like in general. There are quite a few takeaways. The three big ones that I saw were that even if the diagrams don't end up becoming this way, the engineer always tries to make a diagram for one single specific use case. So it could be a general architectural overview. It could be data flow, control flow, fund flow. Even if it doesn't end up being that way, but the intention is usually to do for something specific. It is also true that even if the technical detail, the level ends up being very varied in the diagram, they usually are intended to be either super detailed or general, kind of like not a mix of a situation, but one type of degree. And something that is quite new and quite interesting is a lot of people have expressed interest in making diagrams in a more automated manner using AI agents, and maybe even have those diagrams be digestible by those machines. Not surprisingly, other industries that use software have also talked about these things. And one of the interesting things that you get as a takeaway in those frameworks there is that whenever you make diagrams or diagram standards or guidelines, you should be opinionated. You should give guidelines because engineers kind of get caught up in their technical details and they really need visual guidelines. So with that, I have done some work and I created SCDS. I've made a proposal on the Ethereum Magicians Forum and it also has a bigger draft of my actual standard there. If you're interested to view it and give feedback, I would really appreciate it. Overall, it is a minimal machine-readable standard for diagrams that does two big things. A, it gives some opinionated rules for how to make diagrams with specific types of edges and nodes. And number two, and that's very interesting, especially today, is I do also provide rules for a canonical JSON encoding of that semantic model. And so I want to focus on two things. Number one is that what I just mentioned is the JSON encoding of a model. It's super duper simple. I mean, again, it's just diagram and kind of its internals over there. The important parts that I've created or added there is more things like what kinds of nodes there are, what kind of edges there are that are more specific to our industry and our flavors. And I think this, if any of you have ever done any smart contract parsing with like the JavaScript stability parser, for example, you'll see that this is just a much more general version of what you get out from there. So this could really indeed be something that's created from ABI and contract artifacts and then summarized by maybe AI agents and create something like that, which then can, of course, be displayed and rendered in other tools. And number two that I think I will definitely be using, and I suggest a lot of people to start using, is to start making more leveled and refined diagrams, which is where instead of making one giant diagram with too many things on it, you just make a simpler one, and then you focus on a specific aspect of it, and then you go on further and further and further, so that you don't have more than like 7 or 9 concepts or objects on a diagram at any given time. So please, if you're interested in any of this, if you think this is useful, feel free to leave any comments on my Ethereum Magicians post, and diagram away. Thank you.
Thank you.